Chelsea, who are Club World Cup champions. It's been a heck of a season for them in the end under Enzo Maresca. Things definitely have gone their way, if we are counting this as an end-of-the-season tournament, which many are. We have Alexis and Mark Ogden at the stadium for us. Frank LaBuffa is joining us as well, but let me start with you, Craig, because we were not expecting that from Chelsea tonight, were we?
Well, I heard a great line from the commentator at the end of this game. It was, "This is the pinnacle of..." What was the terminology, Shaq?
Club football. This was the highest platform, was it, of club football?
Which it is not, but taking the final in isolation, this was just a... If you think about Chelsea's season, first half really good, second half patchy, got into the top four to make the Champions League, the top five. This, you could argue, for 45 minutes, was their best performance of this elongated season. Paris Saint-Germain's 65th game, Chelsea's 64th game, so a long slog. And maybe that was the difference for Paris Saint-Germain in the end. They had done all the hard work. They won the French League. They won the Champions League. They've been very good in this competition. But if we're giving Chelsea some credit here, and I think we have to, that 45 minutes, if they can bottle that 45 minutes and take that into the Premier League with consistency, you know, pressing, aggression, football, getting Cole Palmer onto the ball, getting Reece James in the middle of the park to allow Enzo Fernandez to go forward. And I think the most important piece of the jigsaw, and we've seen this very, very early on, and it's always when you go to a new club, just brilliant to start your career at a new club, as brightly and with as much quality as João Pedro has. We all knew he was a good player at Brighton. We all know he's got an immense talent. But what's he going to bring to Chelsea? What's he going to bring that's going to make them different, to challenge Arsenal, to challenge Liverpool, to challenge Man City? And I think in a very small sample size in a blue jersey, we have seen what João Pedro can bring to this Chelsea squad. Quality, movement, and not just that, but a couple of times he dropped off in the first half into the middle of the park and deeper. And we talked about this. He's not just a guy that stands in the number 9 position like a bit of a statue waiting for the ball to come. He drifts around. And a couple of things he did in the first half that you may not have noticed, when he dropped off, controlled it and volleyed the ball over the top into the space for runners, I thought was absolutely brilliant, and he is going to be a tremendous signing.
It looks like he's going to be the solution. I know you've had some high praise for him already, Stevie.
Yeah, I said I was disappointed Liverpool never tried to sign him. I mean, I said happy with Wirtz, but I think to Craig's point, Chelsea have now set the standard for themselves, what they did particularly in the first half. And we knew they had quality, we always known that. We were talking last year about where's the leadership in this team? We were talking about how they're so young. Well, today they grew up because there was leadership all over the field. The back line held a fantastic line the whole game. The middle of the park dominated what we thought was the best midfield on the planet for PSG. And then up front, you had João Pedro to the work rate and the quality, particularly of Neto and Cole Palmer. You've got everything. We saw everything there. If they can put all that together consistently, they can beat anybody. And they can certainly win the Premier League if they produce that game after game after game. Because I don't care who was playing against them today, they would have won the game.
I also thought Maresca got things absolutely right. You talk about the ball from João Pedro over the top. I thought that was on all day long for Chelsea. And they played over the top of the PSG pressure. For as much criticism that Robert Sanchez has gotten as Chelsea goalkeeper, I thought it was simply outstanding today. And you saw his passing reach in distance. When he's passing the ball short, he does still make you a little bit nervous. But time and time again, and particularly to start the game, in that first 30, 35 minutes, what you saw, Malo Gusto pushed right up on Nuno Mendes. And Robert Sanchez just put it right on Malo Gusto every single time. And that seemed to catch PSG out surprisingly, in my opinion. Nuno Mendes, best left back in world football, but just seemed to find himself out of position, getting caught under the ball, Malo Gusto getting the better of him, and then Cole Palmer just sitting in midfield, picking up those pieces. So from a tactical perspective, again, I thought Enzo Maresca got this absolutely right in a game that I I, for one, didn't give PSG more than a puncher's chance.
All the superstars that turned up for PSG in the second half of the season looked as if it was a bridge too far.
Yeah.
It was Dembele hardly had a kick. Kvaratskhelia hardly had a kick. Desiree Doué really, I think, encapsulates their first half when at the back post he tries to pass it. Instead of, he's got a one-on-one, he's side-footing it into the net and he tries to pass it, Gyökeres cuts it out. That midfield that Stevie talked about, it is, even after this game, the best midfield combination in Europe, but we didn't see that today. And maybe that was tiredness, and maybe it was all those games, or maybe it was just because it meant a bit more to Chelsea, and they pressed and they harassed, and they were excellent. But to Shaq's point, Nuno Mendes, you could argue, has been the best left-back second half of the season in world football, and he goes missing for 2 of the goals. So it was kind of one of those days for PSG. Listen, would they swap this performance now with a performance against Inter Milan, where they won 5-0 in the Champions League, and a competition that actually matters, no matter what FIFA will tell you and all the razzmatazz? You're looking at me. You're looking at me. You're looking at me as if I shouldn't belittle this competition. I am belittling it because of all the reasons we've talked about before. That being said, what Chelsea did, you know, and listen, if Chelsea lose the first 6 games of the season, Enzo Maresca will probably get the sack. So the Club World Cup means diddly squat in that sense. But what it does give him is an opportunity to say to his players, do you see what we did in the summer in this competition? Do you see how we combated the European champions? If we can just somehow take that after whatever rest they're getting and take that into the Premier League season, as Stevie said, if they can do that, I think we could have a 4-way battle at the top of the Premier League for a proper title race. I mean, if they can somehow take that forward. And just briefly, the other thing I liked was not just the João Pedro thing, but the ability to bring Liam Delap on as a battering ram, and I'm not being disrespectful, but as a battering ram at the end of the game, amongst other stuff, to come on when defenders are a little tired and they're a little frustrated, he came on and just ruffled a few feathers. I thought that was a great card to be able to play for Maresca.
Frank, you were obviously very excited with what you saw tonight. Are you as excited as the guys are potentially for the season ahead for Chelsea here?
I am, but there's going to be a big pressure for them because after showing us what they're capable of doing and playing against the best team in the world, according to everybody, all the legitimate people, it's a big performance, and he put the level upper than we would thought. And as the guys say, they can be contenders if they carry on playing like that. Because, you know, we're going to talk about the Paris Saint-Germain, what went wrong, but the first thing we went wrong is the club that they played against. And Chelsea were absolutely perfect everywhere. Xhaka mentioned Robert Sanchez. Robert Sanchez had a hell of a game because in like 2-3 occasions he saved. Maybe if Doué would have tried to shoot instead of trying to find the ball when it was nearly, it would have been a different game. But overall, there is nothing to complain about. Malo Gusto was able to cope with Kvaratskhelia and Mendes at the same time, with the help of his teammates as well. At the back, they were strong. In the middle of the park, Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo and James were above the 3 Paris Saint-Germain midfielder who are considered the best in the world. And at front, I mean, Palmer, he was flying, that guy. And we can already feel that with João Pedro, there is already something going on. So, yes, it's a green light for the next season. But let's see how it works, because that's going to be a different competition, a different time, and we know that the other contenders will be ready to fight against Chelsea.
See, Frank, we're not always negative about Chelsea, are we? You and I.
No, never. We're only negative when it's normal.
No matter what they say, and when we go to Alexis Norgate, if he says it's hot in New Jersey, if this English guy from the Northwest says it's hot one more time, we'll cut the feed.
Yeah, one more thing about that. We have to congratulate Maresca. The tactic that he made and he put on today was absolutely perfect to counter Paris Saint-Germain's skills. I mean, on the flanks, how they worked together, that was so nice to see it. They put the poison on Paris Saint-Germain, and the other team will have to know exactly what happened to do the same, to play against Paris Saint-Germain. It was impossible for Paris Saint-Germain to react against that Chelsea. It says a lot about their performances, so congratulations, Mr. Maresca.
Okay.
We've gone too far.
Alexis and Mark, how hot is it in New Jersey? No, I'm just kidding, guys. Obviously, we've seen some wonderful displays, Alexis, from PSG throughout the tournament, but Chelsea saved one of the biggest displays for the final today.
Yeah, Kay, well, I won't let the Englishman tell you that it's hot. I'll be the Jamaican to tell you that it is actually not that hot. You can probably see from my bad hair day that it is actually a nice windy type of afternoon, but brilliant, brilliant atmosphere today. A record-breaking crowd, over 81,000 in the MetLife Stadium tonight. I would say majority probably were rooting for Chelsea. The PSG fans, of course, were subdued because I think they were a little shell-shocked, like all of us in the press area, because again, we didn't exactly cover ourselves with glory predicting that PSG were just going to run through Chelsea. But Kate actually took me back to the press conferences before this final that Augie and I were at for Chelsea, with Reece James being very bullish, saying that he doesn't care about stats, he doesn't read into stats, he doesn't care if people think Chelsea had the easier route to the final and PSG had bigger hurdles to overcome. He didn't care if they won the Champions League. He said, we're going to go out there and prepare as best as possible. And Augie, Chelsea did to PSG what PSG pretty much did to everyone this season.
Yeah, they took him by surprise. And just going back to Craig's point about the moment when Desiree Doué should have scored, that was the turning point of the game. You know, if PSG scored that chance, then they won it up in the Chelsea chased the game in the heat, but they didn't take it. And Chelsea just outran and outchased and out-harried PSG, which is what you don't normally see. And I think, you know, Cole Palmer was outstanding. Every Chelsea player today really put a shift in, and I think that it was a surprise. And obviously, we all got the prediction wrong. I got the scoreline right, just the wrong team. But, you know, so I'm taking 50% of credit there. But listen, Chelsea aren't the best team in the world. PSG are the best team in the world. But today, Chelsea showed, like the guy's saying, that they can compete next season. If they keep the players fit, keep them together, Delap and João Pedro are a really good unit to rotate up front. I think Chelsea have got real promise. But today was a real kind of line in the sand for Chelsea. It's the point that they can now kick on from that, maybe justify the massive investment in the squad over the last couple of years. They are now a competitor, but they have to build on this and show that it's not just a flash in the pan.
Well, on Friday, Enzo Maresca told us about how much he loves watching chess, because you have to think of it up here and then plot your next move anytime the rival makes a move against you. And you love that line as well. What did you think of his tactics?
Well, putting Reece James in the team to kind of stifle the midfield, I thought that was a big moment, because, you know, they risked being outnumbered in midfield. If it was just, you know, I thought Caicedo was excellent, but Caicedo and Fernandes on their own wouldn't have been able to cope. So, giving credit for doing that, we kind of criticised Maresca at times for the way that he has a deliberate way of playing, but he changed it up, and I think, you know, fair credit to him. He really made the tactics work. You know, PSG didn't really change anything. PSG were disappointed, and their frustration came out at the end when, you know, Jean Neves was sent off for the Gyökeres incident, and then after the game we saw the fisticuffs, shall we say.
Yes, exactly. It ended on a bit of a sour note, Kay, when we saw Luis Enrique get involved there with João Pedro. But overall, a big afternoon for Chelsea.
The sun is setting on New York as we come to you this evening, and the sun is setting on another soccer season, which for PSG has been standout, but it does end here with a loss in the Club World Cup final. However, 4 of 5 is not bad. They have won the rest of the finals that they have played in this season. But as for the Club World Cup, that accolade will go to Chelsea.
That bottom one, it's easily kind of airbrushed out of a graphic. It's not really a major drama.
So let me ask you then, Frank, does this take a shine off PSG season in any way, what's happened this evening?
I don't think so. I mean, it was a non-game. I think, I don't know the reason why, you know, you can say they were tired, but Chelsea can say the same. Maybe the rotation system that Maresca put on during the season allowed the Chelsea player to be less tired, I would say, but there is no explanations. I think they were not there. Again, it was a non-game, nothing worked, players were not tuned in. And there is no explanations, but the season they had cannot be erased, and the result that they had cannot be erased by that competition, because overall nobody cares about that competition. They can win like 6 titles of the 7 that they have to play, because they will have to play some other titles, you know, when the summer it's gonna come back, like the Super Cup and whatever it can be. But the main thing that they had to win, they wanted the French Cup, the Ligue 1 and the Champions League. So it would have been an extra result, and it's sad for the players because they showed to the world that they were the best team, but today they didn't show it. And as I said, they faced a fantastic Chelsea where nobody were expecting them to play at that level. So maybe they didn't take it seriously. Maybe that's the only reason that I have to explain why they weren't there today.
That's like saying if Real Madrid had won this competition, which they clearly were not good enough to do, that would have expunged their poor season domestically in Spain, where they didn't win anything. They would have tried to paint it that way, but nobody would have believed them. And at the end of the day, this has absolutely no bearing on what Paris Saint-Germain achieved this season. Zero. Nothing. Their objectives at the start of the season were to be French champions again, win domestic trophies in France, but more importantly, the holy grail for them, and has been for quite some time.
Yep.
And millions and millions and millions of dollars spent, including having Kylian Mbappe, Lionel Messi and Neymar all there at the same time, trying to win the Champions League and failing miserably because it was a circus. And they achieved that this year with a new manager, with a new team being team. And what they did in the Champions League in particular in the second half of the season was amazing. And when you think about it, 65 games before these lads go and be able to take a break, I think it tells you everything you need to know. So they've achieved what they wanted this season. Full credit to them. Today was a pretty horrible day for them, but I bet they're just glad they can go and put their feet up and get some kind of a rest.
Some fiery scenes at the end, though, Shaka. We
Yeah.
saw with Luis Enrique and João Pedro. Also, Donnarumma involved in that.
I thought that was distasteful. And while, to everybody's point, I don't think the result takes anything away from PSG and their successes this season, I just felt those scenes kind of takes away maybe from a more lasting memory of how classy they've been on the pitch all season long. Especially somebody, and I hate to single out Luis Enrique, but because of who he is, what he represents within this club, and the good feeling that just Luis Enrique seems to command wherever he is, wherever he goes. I thought those scenes, again, were out of character and desperately distasteful. Could have done without. So result itself, nothing to lose any sleep over, but I expected a little bit more from them. And I'm sure they would feel the same kind of now as he does this.
You have to single Luis Enrique out. You can't do that as a coach. When you lose, you take it on the chin.
Yeah.
And you look at the two managers during all this. You got one manager in Maresca who's running around, pulling people away, telling them to go, just get out the road. And you've got Luis Enrique shoving the opposition to the ground. I mean, it's unacceptable. He deserves to be pulled out.
Well, it's not just that. He's going to be facing some sort of ban now, unfortunately. But he will. I mean, it's inevitable. I mean, they
Deservedly so.
They cannot overlook this because you're setting a precedent. So that's a problem for him, and it is out of character. And I think we've seen this from PSG as the competition has gone on. The red cards, that's 3 red cards, I believe, plus all the altercations at the end of the game. So it started here with the awful challenge by Pacho, which was awful on Goretzka. So that was the 2-game ban. And then we saw the elbow from Hernandez, needless, absolutely needless here, back up into the face of Guerrero, right in front of Anthony Taylor. And then today, I mean, Cucurella's a player who annoys a lot of people, and guess what? He's got long hair. But you can't pull it. And you just cannot do this. We've seen this before, and we've seen the consequences. And I think this frustration boiled over, and now we have arguably one of the best managers in the game, one of the calmest managers in the game, losing the plot. And one scenario here that you just can't get involved in that. If you're a player, you can't do it. If you're a manager, you certainly can't do it. But what we maybe have here, within the frustrations of the PSG camp, they are now the king of the castle. Not Real Madrid, not Barcelona at the moment, not Liverpool, not City, not Arsenal, not Inter Milan. PSG are currently, they have been the team to beat. Maybe that's why we saw Chelsea approaching this game in the manner in which they approached it. And maybe that's why we saw the frustrations from these Paris Saint-Germain players. Because the Chelsea players were trying to rattle them. When they were pressing, they were being aggressive, they were leaving an arm in, they were leaving a leg in. Because you have to do that when you're playing against the best team in Europe. You've got to try and find another way to get into their head, get into their psyche. And Chelsea did that today, as well as playing some great football. They harassed and they frustrated and they annoyed this Paris Saint-Germain team to the point where they got frustrated. But maybe that's something, to my point, is they're going to have to get used to. Because being the European champions in the manner in which they did by obliterating Inter Milan in the final 5-0, as we sit here now and when the season starts next in August, in the middle of August, when it starts in Europe, the team to beat in Europe are Paris Saint-Germain. And when you're the team to beat, you're the team that every player comes after. And maybe we just saw a little bit in that game today.
A PSG top of the tree right now among European football for you too, Mark?
Oh yeah, I mean, nothing has changed today. They're still the best team in the world. I mean, they hammered Real Madrid 4-0. They put 4 past Atletico. They put 2 past Bayern. That was 10-0 on aggregate against 3 of the best teams in Europe. So what happened today was blip. They had 1 less day to rest than Chelsea. A couple of players missing. So you can't basically say that PSG have been knocked off their perch on the back of this. But you know, to Craig's point about what happens now with Luis Enrique and João Neves, it's a big question that because we don't actually know, because this is a FIFA competition. So if you get sent off in the Champions League, you serve a Champions League ban. If you get sent off in a domestic league, you serve a domestic ban. So what happens now? Does João Neves wait for 4 years to serve his ban in the next Club World Cup? Will Luis Enrique have to serve his ban in a FIFA competition? Because it's a FIFA competition, and as we know, FIFA and UEFA don't get on quite well at the moment, so are UEFA going to say, yeah, you can serve your ban in the Champions League? So there's a few questions to be asked there, but ironically, Gianni Infantino said yesterday that his disciplinary panel have had a holiday in New York in America because, well, for more reasons than that, but because there's been nothing to do. They've had such a quiet tournament. Well, they've got a few issues to unpick after the game tonight with that post-match brawl, but I don't know, like we said, we don't know when they're going to serve it or where they'll serve it.
Rest and recovery has been one of the continuing concerns of many of the players in this Club World Cup. FIFA have had to act, and this is what they've had to say. There is a consensus that there must be at least 72 hours of rest between matches and that players should have a rest period/holiday of at least 21 days at the end of each season. This period should be managed individually by each club and the respective players, also depending on their match calendars and taking into account applicable collective agreements. Mark Ogden with us, Frank still with us too. Mark, it sounds like it's what the players want here.
Well, that's what it sounds like. So that came from a FIFA press release, which was put out at 7 o'clock Eastern time last night, so basically midnight in the UK, which seemed a strange time to bury what seems to be a real kind of agreement. But anyway, FIFA are saying they've reached an agreement, a consensus. They agree that players need a bit of a break. We wake up this morning to find an email from FIFA Pro, which is the global players union, represents 66,000 players, saying, by the way, we were invited to this meeting in New York with Gianni Infantino, nothing to do with us. And somebody at a senior level said, this is a charade. It's not actually what we're haven't been involved with these consultations. Nothing is binding. So right now, it seems like FIFA have basically railroaded this through by speaking to people that maybe on their side rather than people that actually can be the representatives of the players. And just this evening, the FIFA president has compared it to Nero's Rome, this competition, by suggesting that FIFA have just gone unilaterally and done their own thing and just imposed their own regulations, their rules. So it sounds like an agreement, but it's anything but an agreement, judging by the reaction of FIFA Pro today.
FIFA and the graphic that come up, the statement, FIFA and player welfare should never be really seen in the same statement. Gianni Infantino wouldn't know what player welfare was if it flew out and smacked him in the forehead. Otherwise, he wouldn't have an expanded 32-team World Cup, having, I repeat myself, Paris Saint-Germain 65 games, Chelsea 64 games. Tell me in this competition in the United States or any country where player welfare is at the top of the agenda. Because there's no rest. You know, the Champions League final was at the end of May, 31st of May, I believe. This competition started in middle of June. Next year we have the World Cup. You know, a proper bona fide competition. And I keep saying this, when you're growing up as a kid, you're watching, whatever sport it is, you watch these sports as a kid, NFL, NBA, football, soccer, whatever it is, and you aspire to be on the biggest of stages, and you're prepared to put your body on the line without rest for those occasions. World Cups, Copa America, Euros, African Cup of Nations, wherever continent you're in, the big moments. Gianni Infantino is basically asking these players to put their bodies on the line for a contrived 32-team competition, whether you have the pyrotechnics or the fanfare or the president turning up or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We can argue about all that till the cows come home. The bottom line is, for this competition, the players have had little rest and the season start in a month's time. So please, 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 why are they talking about player welfare when they don't give us stuff about the player welfare? Let's be honest about it. It's about one thing and one thing only: dollars, and lots of them.
Right, so what is FIFA doing? What are FIFA doing? You know, the players should be making a stand. Somebody should be speaking out and doing something about it. All they're doing is going along with it. And Gianni Infantino and all the rest of his cronies are going to keep spewing all this sort of stuff just to appease people. And FIFA are complaining, well, you get off your backside and do something. Don't just come out and say, oh, we weren't invited. You should know what's going on. You should know if they're getting together, and you should have stopped the players from going to this tournament in the first place. So FIFA, instead of complaining, actually need to get off the backside and do something, because they're just doing nothing.
But do you know who else is getting no into? And if we've been really honest about this now, it's not just FIFA. Do you know who else has little interest in player welfare? Owners.
Absolutely.
Owners. Real Madrid were desperate to be here. We have Chelsea here, and we saw Todd Bowley going on the field at the end. Do you know why? And he's happy. Do you know why? Not because his players have got a rest, because they've earned millions from this. They've paid for João Pedro. They've sold Nona Madueke and made pure profit. They're making money. They're getting money in, they're putting money out. Owners, and Stevie's talking about players making a stance. And yeah, that might be the case. But if owners don't care about their own players pitching up because their club is getting millions, then who is going to care? But I tell you what, what's going to be interesting here, I think, when all these big leagues start in August in Spain and Italy and England and Germany and whatnot, is what the scenario is going to be statistically wise with the players that have been over here in the States in terms of injuries, in terms of games played, and in terms of performance. I'm going to be really, really interested to see if it has any adverse effect going forward. But when your owners want to be here because they're getting their coffers filled with a lot of money, then what chance have you got of fighting it as a player?
And to that point, let's remember that Real Madrid delayed Jude Bellingham's operation until after this tournament, so that tells you exactly where their head is at in terms of player welfare, so to speak. And I sympathise with FIFPro's position in that this just feels a lot very cloak and dagger to me, as though we'd heard nothing about any kind of meeting or any kind of consultations going on before, and then all of a sudden this statement just put out late at night. And it just feels, again, as though this has been shoehorned almost, well, very much in the dark of night. So I have my suspicions about it. Now, on the one hand, I want to say, well, yes, it's great that that they're mandating that players get a certain amount of rest. But then the closer you look at it, you ask, okay, you say 21 days rest. Does that mean 21 days with no games, or does that mean 21 days with no practice? Because to Craig's point, it's just about 21 days between the end of the Champions League and the start of the Club World Cup or next summer's World Cup. So does that mean that players who play in the Champions League final do not train with their national teams before, in the days just before the World Cup next summer? It just feels, it feels thrown together in the dark of night, and for those reasons alone, I am highly suspicious.
Now you know a bit more about these things than me, Shaq. And I'm not being facetious, right? But you've been involved in talking about FIFPro. Now maybe Augie can put me right here. I don't know. As I sit here now, somebody tell me something really strong, really making a difference that FIFPro have been able to do.
But FIFA consolidate individual players' associations. So the English Players Association, along with the Trinidad and Tobago don't have a players' association, but I argue, well, I'm sure I'll put me right, but it's probably about 140 different individual players' associations who fall under that umbrella.
But what are they doing?
what are they doing
What
then?
they're doing? My point is,
Sure, they are
I mean, we can
the
all-
union of players' union. So they're supposed to represent, they're supposed to have a voice. But if you're not told about the meeting, if you aren't invited to the meeting, and again,
well, that's because they're weak.
maybe Augie could answer this.
Yeah, let's get to Augie then.
Who sat in this meeting with FIFA? Which representations sat in this meeting with FIFA?
Well, I was told by FIFA that the people that were representing the players were people that had been expelled from FIFA, that had been voted off FIFA. Now, FIFA and the European leagues took a legal case with the European Union a year ago, last June, against FIFA for the way that they're imposing the international calendar on the club. So there's obviously bad blood between the two organisations right now, so maybe that explains why they haven't been invited. But still, if they're the group that represents the players' unions, they should be there. And obviously FIFA have done this in a way to try and circumvent them and impose their own decisions.
Okay, last word goes to you, Frank.
Well, I just want to talk about the statement and the 21 days, and that's going to be impossible if you're an international player, and I can talk about it because I've been through that, and it's been in 1998. So when you're an international player, you barely have 15 days holidays. That's impossible to have more. The club doesn't even allow you to go more than 2 weeks because you have international duties. Even in 97, between the European Championship in England, 96, and 98 World Cup, we had a tournament in 97 with the national team. And the club asked me to come back 15 days after. So they say it's up to the club to make sure they have 21 days. It's impossible for the clubs. So they will have to choose whether they have to continue to have like kind of competition like the competition we just finished today.
Grand Central Station in New York City. Lots of comings and goings, lots of ins and outs, just like the transfer window. There's been plenty of transfer talk for you this summer and some developments in Victor Gyökeres' move to Arsenal. An agreement in principle has said to have been reached between Sporting and Arsenal. Remember, we were telling you yesterday how he's refused to report for pre-season, trying to push this move through. Well, that looks as though it is one step closer. Frank is with us, Mark Ogden back as well. What more can you tell us about this situation, Mark?
Yeah, there's been a day of negotiations between Arsenal and Sporting. Sporting have got a reputation for being kind of quite hard to deal with. We saw it when Ruben Amorim went to Man United. They had to wait about 2 weeks until he got it over the line in terms of financial compensation. And Arsenal just upped their bid a little bit. Gyökeres didn't want to play for Sporting again, so they've finally done a deal. It was always going to happen, but it's taken a bit longer than it should have done. So next couple of days, Gyökeres should be an Arsenal player.
Oh, very nice. Obviously,
I thought I was hoping for something a bit more dramatic. Like,
It collapsed.
it collapsed. He's gone on strike, and the president of Sporting's out looking for him.
Well, this is obviously what both sides wanted very much, both Arsenal and Victor Gyökeres.
I couldn't have done this segment if we never had that segue with the train arriving at Central
The
Station.
ins and outs.
The ins and
Yeah.
outs, amazing. Yeah, I mean, on the face of it, it should be a great signing because he's scoring goals for fun and or certainly has for the last 2 or 3 years, particularly in Portugal. It's a position that has been a weak link for them. Allied to the other signings they're making, they haven't weakened. I mean, crystal clear, that's an obvious statement. But once again, in the summer, they have strengthened to try and push on. Now, they have been so close in the last couple of years that the fact that City have won the league and won the leagues that they have, the fact that Arne Slot comes in, picks the baton up from Jurgen Klopp without really changing a lot and goes on and wins the title in some style, by the way, while Arsenal continue to spend very big every summer. Big players, big money, big signings. That just cranks up the pressure on Mikel Arteta to go and get the job done, whatever competition it is, but particularly the Premier League. And if all these deals get done and he has a really good pre-season with this full squad, there really isn't going to be anywhere for Mikel Arteta to manoeuvre
No excuses
if they have a bad season. And that's kind of where they are.
So knowing this now, Frank, that he's coming in, and knowing what Chelsea can deliver, as we saw today, who do you like better?
Would I like better between who and whom?
Chelsea and
Arsenal
Arsenal.
and Chelsea.
Oh, you know what? It's funny, but Arsenal are always buying players, you know, that Chelsea don't really want anymore. You know, with Jorginho, Havertz, and who else? Sterling. And now they are taking Madueke. So I'm pretty pleased with what Arsenal are doing. And if they get Gyökeres, it's going to be better. But really, I think Chelsea can compete with Arsenal. Arsenal are more experienced, but Chelsea is going there. And I think Arsenal missed the spot like 2 years ago. So let's see how it works.
Come on.
It's one game.
Let's not get carried away here. Let's not get carried away. I know we said, look, if Chelsea can bottle that, that's a huge if. If they can do that consistently, maybe they get a chance of ruffling feathers. Let's be honest, Arsenal are so close to being the real deal in England. Very close. Chelsea are not at the moment, right?
So rank the four for me: Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Chelsea for next season.
Right, I'll rank them at the moment. Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City at the moment, because you're expecting them to bounce back, and Chelsea. Now, again, it's ifs, buts and maybes. The one thing I think we know, through all the adversity that Liverpool Football Club have had to face and the tragedy and all that sort of emotional distress, which has been horrendous, I'm sure, for them, is that once the season starts, I'm expecting them to be kind of what they were last year.
Right.
I'm also expecting Arsenal to be very strong, because they are, and they've made some new signings. Chelsea and City are a little bit more of an anomaly, particularly Chelsea.
We're unsure what we're going to get from both of them. We see the potential, particularly after today. You know, we were gushing about Chelsea, and deservedly so, because today they showed us what they're capable of. The problem Chelsea have is that they have to produce that 38 times in a Premier League season in order to win the title. We don't know if they're capable of doing that. We know what they're capable of, but it's the consistency that we're just not quite sure of.
I would take Arsenal's squad. Well, put it another way. If you give me the choice of two squads at the moment, although Chelsea have got some talented players, if you give me these two squads, I'm taking Arsenal's all day at the moment, every day.
I take Arsenal over Chelsea. I'm not as convinced that I'd have Arsenal over Manchester City, especially if Roger rediscovers his old form. All of a sudden, you want to think that City last season was more an anomaly. And with again, Roger coming back, signings, refreshing City's squad,
What about them defensively?
Yeah, they've done nothing. They have not changed anything.
Right now, I'm giving City the edge.
City's done absolutely nothing to make themselves better defensively. Yes, they've made themselves stronger going forward, but defensively, nothing. Arsenal have done exactly what they had to do: get a goal-scoring centre forward. Easily, Arsenal ahead of City.
Can I interfere? And if I can agree with Craig that maybe we don't know anything about Chelsea, we are more certainty about Arsenal. I have doubts about everybody, and I'm sorry I have to talk about Liverpool and the loss that they're facing right now. How the players going to react to that? That's also a question mark. It's going to be very hard for the players to cope with the situation if the two first games it doesn't work. It's hard, but that's the reality.
Lamine Yamal celebrated his 18th birthday today. He's won the Euros, he's won La Liga, he's in with a shot of winning the Ballon d'Or. I wonder what you were doing at 18, Checker.
Not that.
Tell you what, though, hey, big news. 18, he can go to the pub now. Not in America, 21. Rules and regulations and all that.
That's your big takeaway here.
For all the good, for all the...
They're not all like you, Craig.
He needs to get a move. He needs to get a move to England.
Listen, when you turn 18 in Europe, you have to get your priorities right. And that's getting out for some cold beers, sharpish, legally.
You don't need to be 18 in Europe. Huh? You don't need to be 18, I can assure you.
Move on.
I have a feeling that Lamine Yamal is not
I've got to be 18 to get in a pub.
Officially.
Yeah, but I go by the book.
Probably end it now. Happy birthday, Lamine Yamal. Thank you so much for being with us. Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Look at us in this posh studio today.
I'm not used to this, are we?
All of the treatment as well. We're not used to any of it. Shaka, Stevie, Craig here with us. I think Frank's joining us too. Yes,
There he
Frank
is.
is in Paris as per usual. Not so bad.
all the shows they do out of here, they get spoiled, don't they?
Well, they've had a look at how the other half lived today.
No wonder it's no wonder they've all got big heads.
I've been here all week.
I mean,
We could get used
I was
to it.
kind of generally throwing that out there.
Okay.
To nobody in particular.
Let's take a look at today's questions then. Oh, here they are. All right, number one. From Craig's inner piece.
Oh boy.
How do you find the
Where
tour?
does it come out very often?
How do you find it on the tour journey down here? I was meditating.
All right. How does Stevie feel about being completely wrong about how Chelsea should approach this game? Good thing he's not the one coaching, and he owes Robbo an apology. Imagine saying Chelsea must play with 10 men behind the ball when they can do this.
Well, hold on a second. They had 34% possession. So basically they were behind the ball the majority of the time, if you want to be technical. At the end of the day, they had two choices. And it was kind of a hybrid, let's be honest. They started the game on the front foot, but by the end of the game, they were absolutely 10 men behind the ball. So they kind of did both.
Pass the salt.
It's okay to say you were wrong, Stevie.
Oh, I was wrong.
okay.
But at
We were all wrong.
At
We were all
times
wrong.
during the game, I was 100% correct.
All right.
There you go.
Wow. I was 100% wrong. I ain't gonna lie. I didn't see this coming in a month of Sundays.
Wow,
This
Frank.
performance from Chelsea, I didn't see this coming at all.
Yeah, you know what? We were all wrong.
Yeah.
We were all wrong.
No, I'm in touch with my inner peace. I can say I was wrong, and I'm all right with that.
Okay, what are your takeaways?
Listen, nobody admits that they're wrong more than me.
There's a graphic for that.
Ah, boy!
When was that?
Ah,
Enlighten
goodness
us.
me.
He said it now, so we've got that forever
that?
on record. Nobody admits they were wrong more than me. We're going to put a
27
graphic up.
27th of April, 2014. I think you'll find that was the last time.
Ah, boy.
I tell you what, I should have done this during the show. Didn't I?
I've just been told Chelsea had
Should have
69%
buttoned my bottom thing.
possession in the
I
first
thought
half.
it couldn't, but
The graphic we had,
In the first half.
that's overall.
Okay.
It's overall.
All right, what are your takeaways if you're Maresca talking to his boys after this Chelsea mauling of PSG?
that they're good. We're good.
No, that they can compete.
Yeah. No, you're Maresca
Get it
here.
then.
The question is if you're Maresca.
Yeah, I know, but
Channel your inner Maresca.
yeah, I'm trying to give it some context because of the importance of the game, which to an extent had some importance, but it wasn't the be-all and end-all from a club perspective. That being said,
Got all serious there, didn't
who?
he? You.
I know. That being said,
Got all sensible.
you take all the positives that they were able to do to PSG in terms of frustrating them and outplaying them and what they created and the goals that they scored and the way that they defended and everything they did well against Europe's best team at the moment, whether they were spent or not. And you try and take that forward into your... It's difficult. I find this a bit weird to say because they're now going on their holidays, most of these players, for whatever it is, a week or 10 days before they're back in actual what we would consider pre-season, getting ready. So somehow you've got to find all that balance and then take that into your pre-season, play some games, and then take that into the Premier League season. And if he can do that, then he's going to get some really good results and performances. But that's the big if that we're talking about.
Who will be the biggest threat to Liverpool next season? This Chelsea side that clobbered PSG, Arsenal with Gyökeres, or Man City if they can return to form? Frank.
Oh, thank you for that question. Nobody knows, you know. I mean, we don't know where Chelsea is going to stand, if they're going to play like today, or like sometime last season. I think we'll need some consistency to know better about that. What about City? How are they going to play? How defensively they're going to improve? If they can improve? How Arsenal is going to work with Gyökeres if he scores goals, and how Liverpool, and it's sad to talk about it, how Liverpool going to cope with the situation about losing Diogo Jota. It's going to be hard to cope with that. So nobody knows. Yeah, Liverpool are still the contender, but nobody really knows who's going to show us a better way to play their football comparing to last season. Because again, last season was a mediocre season. So we need more and more from those 4 clubs.
Okay.
Arsenal.
Arsenal.
It's quite.
Manchester City.
Yeah, he has already said that. All right. For all, seeing how Luis Enrique slapped a Chelsea player after losing, will he get punished for it?
100%. And he should. Can't do that. Listen, you're the coach. At all times, you're supposed to be the example. You're supposed to lead the way, show the way. This is how we do it. This is what we're about. Not act like a big kid who's just lost a game and then take the hump and then put your hands on the opposition. I mean, that is just, it's just a no-no, complete no-no.
But as Mark Ogden was saying when we were doing the live show, this is comes under the FIFA umbrella, not UEFA. So where, if it's not a fine, if there's some sort of suspension, where's that suspension going to take place? So I don't know how they're going to address it.
You can't get away with it, that's for sure.
No.
Okay. Does this defeat hurt Dembele's chances at the Ballon d'Or?
Oh my God.
Who cares? That's a fair point. Who cares? But I think winning it, Sydney would have bought him. I still think Lamine Yamal is my favourite. But of course, winning it gives Dembele that extra title to boast about, to maybe push himself past Lamine Yamal.
Well, it was in effect club football's grandest stage.
Grandest platform, grandest stage. That's right, that's right.
The Ballon d'Or is created by the French. It's obviously Frank's favourite, as we know. It's a French player.
Blame
so
Frank
what do we
for it.
think, Frank, about this question?
And you know what? Give it to Dembele and talk about something else. You know, I mean, we have created all the European competitions and even I think the World Cup. But really, the worst creation we ever made was the Ballon d'Or. So I won't say that I'm happy about that. And I'm not pleased to be French about that. That's the only shadow that I can have with my
This
French.
Ballon d'Or's got a lot to answer for, yeah.
You hosted it, didn't you? One year.
Yeah.
You'd do anything for money, wouldn't you? Hey, hosting it. Rude Hula, you hosted it with Rude Hula,
No, of
didn't you?
course not.
I did.
Ah, Frankie, hosted it with Rude, eh?
Yeah. Would you have
No.
hosted it with me, Frank?
No, I will wait for you at the restaurant after the show. You know, you come and we have a nice restaurant.
Dancing with his stars.
That's it.
Frank would host it. If Frank hosted the Ballon d'Or, he'd walk out with his World Cup.
Full kit.
World Cup winner. In case you never.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Just in case you forgot,
Just in case.
1998 World
My name is
Cup
Frank
winner.
It was,
Some people, you know, we've got scruples, you know.
it was a lot more prestigious when I hosted it.
Asked me to host the Ballon d'Or, you couldn't buy me. Not that they would be interested, but I know about it. Some, you know, just wouldn't do it. I would not stoop. I mean,
Everybody's
Been a
got a
lovely
price.
couple
I
of
tell you
days,
what.
You and I on stage.
you know my
Talking
biggest
to all
fear?
those legends.
The Club World Cup. If we buy it down the line sometime, that stance may have to be softened.
You're going to have to go on a long holiday.
I'm going to have to emigrate.
Yes. Anyway, we'll end it there. Thank you so much.
Greatest
for sending
competition in
your
the world, that
questions.
Club World Cup. Live on ESPN.
We do this every single day on ESPN Plus.